Hey, what up guys? Today I wanted to do a little bit of a deeper dive, and I want to basically try to dissect this trailer bit by bit and see if we can't uncover any clues or things about the game that might have gone like unnoticed. Because I know I tend at least to not notice things. I'm sure other people didn't notice certain things. So I wanted to kind of break this down bit by bit and see how much we can dissect this trailer and try to find out what they have in store for us, you know? Now, first of all, I want to preface this by saying, regardless of what happens with this game, I'm still excited for it and I'm still going to play it. I mainly have some concerns about what exactly they're going to be giving us, just more basically based on what the trailer's been so far. I had quite a bit of a controversial post on the Fable hit posting group the other day, and I don't, people kind of like misinterpreted everything that I said in my essay that I posted there, which has now become its own meme. But basically the gist of it was that in the original Fable trailers, even for Fable 2, for Fable 1 and 2, the trailers were basically like gameplay catalogs. They're like, this is exactly what you can expect from the game. Here's this feature, here's this feature, here's this feature, here's this feature. You're going to be able to grow horns if you're evil. You're going to be able to get a halo if you're good. For the sake of Fable 2, it was like, oh, you can be any character you want. You could be ugly and fat. You could be pretty and skinny. You can be a boy. You could be a girl. It was like they gave you this whole sense of creation and customization. Whereas like these new trailers, it's very obviously focused on one protagonist, right? I mean, sure, they could still pull something at the last minute and be like, oh, just kidding. You guys actually get to choose your protagonist or customize your own or whatever. But, you know, from what we can see, they hired an actual actress or whatever, or like a real life human model to model the protagonist after. And I don't see them going through all the effort of doing that and paying a model, giving them royalties for their likeness and all this whatnot, if they're just gonna let you like crumple all that up into a ball, throw it in the trash, and just make your own character. Just to say, like, I'm not like sitting here hating on the game. I'm not sitting here saying the game is gonna be trash. I'm just saying like the trailer itself kind of falls short of what the other trailers showed us. And if all we have to go by is what those trailers are showing us, one can only really assume that, like, even if it does end up being a good game overall, like, it is most likely going to be falling short in the areas that I specified, right? But yeah, that's enough rambling. Let's get going with it. So first things first, I want to make note of the weaponry here, right? And this is where it starts to fall short immediately. Now, don't get me wrong, that looks like a beautiful mace. I would love that mace in like any game that like really wasn't a Fable game, honestly. I mean, maybe for a generic mace, that's cool, but part of the Fable aesthetic was how like fantasy themed all the weapons were. They were all like ridiculously sized and shaped, and then you get into the legendary weapons and they look just completely bonkers, honestly. It's like the Soulless Greatsword, you got this squiggly orange sword. I don't know, so far, based on what I'm seeing with the weaponry, it's looking like it's going to be a lot more like traditional medieval styled weaponry as opposed to the more like fantasy inspired stuff. And that's one of the things where I'm like, okay, this is falling short on Fable aesthetic already. Even if it ends up being a great game, like certain aesthetic principles of the game are just not in line with the original Fable. They're just not.
You want to know all about heroes, do you? Well,
so you want to know about heroes?
Come to the right place.
Come to the right place.
Who better to tell you all about them than
me?
Perhaps the greatest hero of them all. Yeah.
So who is this guy?
His finery. Cheers.
Now, obviously, this is some other sort of like guild hero type or whatever. As you see in a second here, he's a retired hero. He's Humphrey, the retired hero. Aren't really showing a whole lot here. First like 40 seconds are honestly like wasted of this trailer. You could almost argue that like, yeah, there are like other male characters, and this guy is probably arguably some sort of protagonist, but you know, judging by the fact that they call him a retired hero, you know, it's obviously not going to be the protagonist you play as, unless like the whole point is that you come out of retirement to be a hero or something. Who knows? Maybe you get to choose between Humphrey and the girl or something. I don't know. What I do find interesting though is that they haven't actually like formally introduced this person that we at least assume to be the protagonist, which is also like another point of contention. We don't actually know for a fact that she is actually like the main character protagonist that the player plays as. Even though that there has been a heavy focus on her, there hasn't necessarily been anything that suggests that's the player character, except for like, I guess some of the gameplay footage they show here. But there is a good chance that she's just one of the heroes you get to play as. This is where it kind of alludes to the fact that like she is the player character, because you kind of see her from like a third person, like walking through the village, interacting with people, getting into combat fights and all this stuff, as you'll see here.
You get your mega fans.
You are like literally my favorite person.
Your haters.
It's like a fan club, but we hate you.
So like you do have like a little bit of the Fable aspect in there of like people will either adore you or hate you. They will either fear you or respect you. They kind of cover that principle of the game, but like they seem to fall short of all of the other traditional aspects of the game, like the actual good and evil aspects and how that physically affects your character as well as the game world itself. Fable 1 was like all about that whole your choices matter in the game. They affect your character and they affect the world, right? And the people around you. Sure, that happens in this game, but they don't really seem to focus on it too much other than like, oh, you know, you'll have your super fans and your super haters.
Your chances and the occasional giant toad.
We got like giant toads in this game, which like weren't necessarily canon in any of the other games. But again, we get another look at weaponry here. And again, this might just be like base level weaponry. This might just be their version of the longsword, because you know, arguably the longswords in Fable weren't necessarily anything to write home about. But even with your more traditional looking weapons in the first Fable, you still had things like obsidian that kind of made them look a little bit fancier. And then you get into like the master version of the weapon, which is basically just like a fancier obsidian, more or less. So I don't know, I'm hoping they do at least like something fun with the weaponry. I do like myself some nice traditional medieval weaponry, but with this type of game, so like you got like giant 5,000-pound frogs here. Like, can we get some fantasy weaponry, please? That's part of the aesthetic here, and I feel like they're really falling short of that aesthetic, honestly.
But it's more than that.
It's more than that.
It's about
See, this was like one of the first things I was like, wait a minute, I missed that the first time through. Said it's more than that, right?
it's about the choices you make.
I'm a hero.
It's about the choices you make, and then it switches to a completely different hero, and she's all like, I'm a hero. Like, why would they say exactly that line for exactly this scene? You know what I mean? I feel like there's some illusion there, and they're alluding to the fact that you either choose your hero or maybe you even get to customize it. Now, originally, I was thinking that this was just something along the lines of the idea of having like other heroes in the guild that you can interact with. At first, like that was my thought, like, oh, this is just another one of like the heroes that you can like interact with in the guild, like Briar Rose or Whisper. Who knows? Maybe that's like Whisper's mom or something. Like maybe the main girl is Scarlet Robe for all we know. Maybe she's the mother of the hero of Oakvale. Could be. I feel like that would be a completely redeeming quality of having this one single protagonist role if it does end up being that way. We might end up just getting one protagonist, but like, hey guys, don't worry, it's Scarlet Robe. It's literally like the mother of the hero of Oakvale, so it all like makes sense and kind of comes together, right? Like that would be nice. I wouldn't be opposed to that, that's for sure. But if it's kind of just for no reason and we don't get a choice, and it just kind of feels like a wasted opportunity and the game kind of falls short, and like, you know, it seems a little grifty, right? But personally, I feel like this segment of the trailer alludes to the fact that you will get a choice of your hero protagonist here.
It's more than that. It's about the choices you make.
It's about the choices you make, right? And this seems to be one of them. You might be able to get a choice. You might be able to make the choice of which hero you play as.
I'm a hero.
She just, like, she could have said any line and she's like, I'm a hero, right after it pans to her when he's saying, oh, you get to make a choice, right? Like, kind of seems like you get to make a choice of at least her and her, but like I think that might just be their way of saying like you can make any character you want. I don't know, who knows.
I should do what I want.
I should do what I want. Like, I'm a hero, I should do what I want. It like seems to suggest that like not only can you make a choice of this hero, but you can do what you want. Maybe you can customize the hero completely. I don't know. Like, I'm kind of just reaching at this point. Like I might really be stretching and reaching with this, but that kind of feels like a little bit of like a hidden clue in there. It's like, why would they have placed all of these puzzle pieces together if they weren't actually together, right? Is it just a coincidence? I guess it could be, but it seems like a very specific coincidence, honestly.
You thought you could save her.
You know, it's your life and death stuff. That's what defines you, doesn't it? Really stays with you. I knew this one hero.
I knew this one here. So there was also some controversy about the whole, oh, I knew this one hero thing. And it wasn't a whole lot of controversy because there was like literally only one dude that seems to think this. He seems to think that like this person has nothing to do with anything. And then like, you know how he's talking about like, oh, I once knew this girl, and it ends up like not being her at the end. He seems to think that the chick at the end is like the actual protagonist, as opposed to like really what everybody else caught from this is that like she's the evil person. Like, oh, she's back and she's evil and she's gonna fuck shit up again. It seems to make it seem like she's the antagonist by everything that we can see in this trailer. So I don't know what that guy's going on about, but that was something I wanted to kind of bring up, was that idea was at least somewhat floating around. But I don't think it really makes sense. If you actually like pay attention to the trailer, it's very obvious that they're talking about some sort of antagonist. And I think the people theorizing that she might be like the Queen of Blades or whatever, I think they might be along the right track possibly. But anyways, let's continue.
I took her in when she had nowhere else to go. Welcome to the most exclusive club. Thought I'd get her out there, make the most of her gift. But you know what it's like when you're young and you have a point to prove. I tell you, this kid, she had it all. The skill.
This is like the very smallest little lick of gameplay, but the thing that like flew over my head, I want to say like the first 5 times I watched this wouldn't seem like all that important really, but it's hugely important for what we can actually expect from this game. What you have to understand is that only the first game had bows and arrows. Fable 2 had crossbows, but they did not have bows and arrows. Now you might be starting to see how this becomes significant. We're either staying at around the time period of the first game or we're going back in time. But we're definitely not going as far forward as Fable 2 or 3 because neither of those games used bows and arrows. They strictly only had crossbows if you wanted to use like some sort of arrow-based weapon. And then they had guns. Now, not only have we not seen a gun in any of the 3 trailers or teasers that we've gotten so far, not only have we not seen guns yet, but we now have confirmation that there's a bow and arrow, which more or less seems to confirm that there's not going to be guns, because it's like you either have bow and arrows and crossbows or you have crossbows and guns. I don't really see them having guns and bows and arrows, you know what I mean? And this is just basing completely off of what's available in the Game 1, Game 2, and Game 3. But if we're going based off of that, this seems to suggest that we're gonna get more of a Fable 1 style of weaponry as opposed to the Fable 2 style of like literal guns, right? So this is a huge part of the trailer that I think everybody kind of glossed over, didn't really realize what they were seeing when they saw it. Everybody saw the bow and arrow, but nobody really like considered the fact that, wait a minute, the only game with bows and arrows was the first one, because the other ones went too far forward in time. Then all they had were guns and crossbows, and even still they hardly had crossbows. But it is nice that we get, like, even though it's just the tiniest bit of gameplay footage, we get what at least sort of appears to be some sort of gameplay footage, and we get one like will spell, we get a fucking bow and arrow, but not a whole lot.
The talent.
Now, the other interesting thing, we actually do see a crossbow up there, but then I didn't even really consider this until now. She's throwing something. It seems like a throwing knife or something. What is in her hand? Is that just an arrow? Oh, you know what she did? I think she caught the crossbow bolt.
The power.
That's ridiculous. Is that going to be a special move in the game? You can literally catch a fucking arrow out of midair and just throw it back? That's ridiculous. That actually sounds like it's going to be really good. That's actually a feature. That sounds sick as fuck. Talk about fantasy elements. That's literally impossible, but I mean, that sounds pretty fucking dope. Even though it seems like a little bit too ridiculous, it seems pretty dope.
She was something else, all right. She was terrifying.
Terrifying.
So, yeah, I knew this girl once who made all the wrong choices.
Who made all the wrong choices, which seems to suggest that she's as evil as can be. If you made all the wrong choices, you can literally only be the most evil person. Like, if you've made like every single wrong choice that has ever existed, you can't do any more wrong. You've done as many wrong things as like physically exist, which means that you're just the most evil person, right? Like, that is a weird word salad way of him saying this is the most evil person, i.e. the antagonist. And this is, of course, where you get the reveal that he's not talking about the girl you've been looking at on screen the whole time. He's talking about some other evil person.
She's back.
And then she comes up like, she's back. To me, it seems quite obvious that's like a setup for you having to deal with this evil antagonist, right? Like, that does not seem like a setup for the player character. That doesn't make any sense.
I'm going to fix it. This place.
Can we get this stuff out of the way?
One is going to stand in my way.
Doesn't really tell us a whole lot here. I'm judging by the staff, there's probably some sort of like wizard or mage or whatever. But we have this red robe here and some leather. I don't know. I suppose it's possible that could be the Queen of Blades. I think the color scheme makes sense for it. Jack of Blades wore like scarlet red robes. This person is wearing scarlet red robes. Could definitely be the Queen of Blades. But, you know, I also don't see a blade. I see a staff. So that gets a little weird there, doesn't it? We don't really know a whole lot about the Queen of Blades. But I suppose that is a possibility. It's just, it throws me off a bit that she has a staff and not a blade. Like, if this was actually supposed to be the Queen of Blades, I don't really think she would be walking around with the staff. And then, like, at the same time, like, if it was the player character, like, are they gonna have him show up with the fucking staff? Like, why would they do that? It's not epic. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, you know, there's definitely some things that I missed the first couple times I watched it, and I think there's at least a couple pretty important moments in there, like the whole alluding to the fact that you'll have a choice of hero.
I'm a hero. I should do what I want.
I should do what I want. That I feel like is an allusion to like being able to make your own choice in hero, and maybe even be able to like do exactly what you want, which is to custom create your own. And then what doesn't seem so important, but actually kind of is the fact that she pulls out a bow and arrow here, which basically confirms that it's gonna be of the time period where they had bows and arrows, so before they got guns. And then, you know, this is like a little bit of a minor one here, but we do get a quick little look here at this ability to throw arrows back at enemies, which if that actually is going to be in game, that's sick as fuck. I honestly can't wait for that. That's a pretty cool skill. I don't know, let me know what you guys think. You think we're getting like a more Fable 1 time period game? I think we are. It seems like it from what I can see, but who knows? Maybe they end up putting guns in there too and surprise us all. We get guns, bows and arrows, and fucking crossbows. I don't want guns in this game. If I want guns in the game, I'm gonna play fucking Call of Duty. For the love of God, don't put fucking guns in this game. Holy shit, man. And then also, I know I said I was gonna be doing one last episode of the Fable Aeon Edition series, but I kind of have to like awkwardly just end that series because there's not really anything left to do. I thought there was gonna be a lot more silver key chests that I missed, but I'm like almost certain I got every single one of them. I always forget how like few of an amount of silver key chests there are in the original game. There's only like 10 of them. Alexander added like 30 key chests to the game, or at least like moved some of the original ones and added. So it went from having 10 key chests to having like 30 basically. And I've gotten all 30 from what I can tell. So there's not anything left to do there. And I don't really feel like just spending an entire episode like running around looking for nothing in the nothingness. So the Aeon Edition series is now officially over, and I'm going to be trying to move on to some different kind of content. I'm gonna be doing some more mod content. I wanted to check out the, I think Fable Seasons is what it's called. And then there was Fable the Lost Content. There might have even been a third one. I don't know. But I feel like Fable Seasons and Fable the Lost Content are definitely two on my list. I don't think I'm going to be doing those right away because I still got to like do a reinstall of Fable so I have like a clean slate to work from. Kind of annoying, but whatever. It's a small game. It's not that big of a deal. Just so I make sure I'm like experiencing like just that mod and not like a bunch of mods stacked on top of each other, right? That is something I want to do here eventually. I'd probably not jumping into that right away. I have some kind of content like this, not necessarily like trailer review content, but more generic gaming content that I want to do, like reviews or tutorials, that sort of thing. So I'm going to try to do some of that stuff before I hop into the next mod playthrough. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that the Aeon Edition mod playthrough is done because there's not any silver key chests left for me to go find and not really much else for me to go look for in the world. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed that one. I didn't really like leave off on like a conclusionary note there. So here's my conclusion for that series and my conclusion for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this. See you guys in the next one. Peace out. That's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, show the algorithm some love and hit that like button for me. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already to stay up to date on all my latest gaming content. Of course, for as little as 99 cents a month, you can become a channel member and help support the channel monetarily. On that note, I'd like to give a special shout out to my active channel members. Thank you all for your continued support. It is definitely greatly appreciated, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.